He told me he was just waiting to come to our family. Another 3 years went by, and one spring day, Mom and Dad called Rex and Tammy and I home from playing down the street with our cousins. And as we walked home, slowly, might I add, we were trying to see which one of us would be in trouble, or all three of us were getting in trouble this time. And we got home, we were surprised some new furniture, couches that Mom had ordered had been delivered, and they sat us down on these new couches and began to tell us that Mom was pregnant and we were going to have, and that another baby was coming. At this time we didn't know it was a boy. And they told us that we were going to have Mom was going to have a baby in October. When I woke up on Wednesday, October 21st, 1984, I thought it was going to be just like any other day, get up and go to school. But I woke up with Mom with curlers in her hair, her hot curlers in her hair, and she was singing, and I just knew something was different. And she was packing her suitcase. She had told me that my grandmother Champion and my Aunt Joyce were coming over to see that 3 of us got off to school okay. She said that Dad was on his way home and would take her to the hospital, and they were going to have our baby brother. And when they called, he was a redhead, just as I saw in my dream. I was 1 month from turning 13. No, I was 1 month from turning 14. And I was in the 7th grade. Rex was 11, almost 12 in March. Tammy was 9 and almost 10, just shy of being 10. We always counted the time that David was 10 years younger than all of us, all the 3 of us, with 10 younger than Tammy. And we counted David as a long-awaited answer to many prayers. David's childhood. As a child, I loved watching the Andy Griffith Show, and Ron Howard played Opie, and I always called David my little Opie. That was my nickname for David, right? And several of us used it. Throughout David's childhood, he loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He loved Transformers and Scooby-Doo. He could sit in a sandbox for hours and play and build with all his cars and all his blocks. I used to watch Wishbone and Goosebumps with him in between coming home from work and going to college. No, not that time, I was going to college. I was coming home from high school. Kind of some other stories. When David was about 2, we had a dog. We got a dog before that. This big red-brown dog named Rascal. David loved that dog. He would spend hours on that dog. He would take naps on the dog. And one day, he was out playing with Rascal in the yard, and Mom had gone out to check on the water. She was watering the many fruit trees we had. And David was going to the bathroom on the side of the house. So Mom swatted him on the fanny and said, no, David. And she had this ritual. She would take him from one room to the other. This is where the potty is. If you're here, this is where the potty is. So David, and she put a diaper on him, and then so David went and got a diaper and took it outside, and he got a big 2x4 and he hit the dog with it. Said, no, Rascal, no pee in the yard, and he tried to diaper the dog. One time we had a tree house that our dad had built for us in our backyard, in a big shady house. I'm not sure who was all out playing in the tree house, but one time we could not find David anywhere. We looked everywhere for David. He had gotten some help from some of the cousins or climbed up in the tree, and they all ran off and went to play, but David could not get down by himself yet from the tree house, and he'd just fallen asleep, waiting for someone to come rescue him from the tree house. We used to visit our grandparents in Heber, Arizona so many times. My grandma's backyard neighbor, Roger and Lori, had a beautiful red-headed girl named Autumn. David and Autumn could not be separated. David would again go missing, like he often went missing. And he could see him if you look out the back of Grandma's window, standing at the back fence, talking to Autumn, both of them on step stools. Or he found a way to get over the fence, and we could see him jumping on the trampoline with Autumn on the fence. And then Autumn became sick. And one time we went to Heber, and Autumn wasn't there anymore. She had passed away. And David was so devastated to lose his best friend, Autumn. And Dad tells a story that one year he got in a Hot Wheel car, and Mom and Dad were trying to teach him safety rules and told him you could walk around the block and not leave the sidewalk around our block, and he had to stay on the sidewalk. So he took off riding his Hot Wheel. We went looking for him, couldn't find him anywhere, didn't know he's on the Hot Wheel. And he come around the corner after a while searching, and Dad said, "Well, David, where have you been?" He says, "Riding my Hot Wheel. I stayed on the sidewalk." In 1988, David was 4. We went to Black River and we went camping. David caught his first big fish that year, and he was so proud to hold that fish. Moving on a few years, I went on a date. I went on a date with this guy, and we took David to the zoo, and we got to ride the camel. And when I was on my mission later, David remembered that and drew a picture of us on that camel. And he thought that was so cool that he got to ride a camel. We went to Disneyland one summer, and David, I don't remember much about David in Disneyland because we were older kids, so Mom and Dad thought it was the first year we were allowed to go by ourselves as long as we could read and watch. And the 3 of us tagged together, and Mom and Dad spent the day in Kittyland with David. But he had so much fun at Disneyland. David got to go one year to the Phoenix Sun basketball camp that was held, and he had signatures of Charles Barkley and Dan Merling. He talked about that camp for so long. When David turned 8, Rex was on a mission. I was a stake missionary, and David asked me to speak at his baptism. And I was one of my first talks, but first talk at a baptism that I'd ever given. I was really honored that he asked me to speak at his baptism. He liked to hang out with me, and the missionaries, and he wore his